Welcome to And Now for Something Completely Machinima podcast. I'm Ricky Grove. I'll be your host today, and I'm here with Tracy Harwood and Damien Valentine.
Hello.
We're missing Phil Rice today because he's not feeling too well, so we wish him the best and we hope he gets well soon. We're looking at a film today. This is Tracy's pick. It's called Secret Moon by Orencloud. Tracy, can you tell us a little bit about the film?
Yeah, absolutely. Secret Moon, yeah. Orencloud, released on the 1st of December last year, and then re-released on the 20th of December on the Kitbash 3D channel, because this was the winning entry to the 2022 Kitbash 3D Mission to Minerva challenge. And this is the video entry. Now,
who did the challenge? Who sponsored it?
Kitbash.
Kitbash.
Yeah, Kitbash. So that contest was actually launched in September last year and it closed in December. So they didn't have very long to actually respond to it. What it did, it asked creators to use their newly launched free kit, the Minerva Mission to Minerva kit, to build a settlement on a planet within this Minerva galaxy. And what basically they were asking was for challenge submissions to use at least one asset in whatever it is they created. Now, it was judged by a really impressive panel of judges from ILM, from Netflix, NASA, Riot Games, and CD Projekt Red. And it was judged on the basis of how well they incorporated the theme of discovery, exploration, and spacefaring civilization, as well as kind of, usual things: composition, lighting, atmosphere, render quality, storytelling, sound design, all those kind of usual things. And so what they also were looking for, I think, was originality in the style and theme, which were, they said, broadly to reflect the challenge. And the judges were looking for uniqueness and originality in turning those assets into something new for that Minerva world, which kind of connects to the entire galaxy. So that's the kind of challenge that Orencloud responded to. Made in 40 days, as I said. He used Blender and Kitbash. He's an Italian 3D artist with a website, ArtStation profile, YouTube channel, a few other pieces of work, actually, which I think are equally ethereal works, and are actually worth checking out too. His stills are really impressive, and he sells them actually as NFTs on various markets. And if you check them out, you can kind of clearly see a fascination that this guy has with a very particular theme that came through in this film. And I'll just sort of tell you a little bit about the film. Called Secret Moon, it's basically about a catastrophic virus. And what's kind of interesting, I think, he's got this whispered voice in this message to people on other planets somewhere else in the galaxy about the devastation that's kind of going on this moon. And the tone is, breathless, really, for want of another kind of description of it, I think. It's whispered, it's breathless, and it just adds, it's kind of got a very, it's got a great sadness through it, somehow. And there's the music that accompanies the whole piece is really bizarrely, strangely, very uplifting and quite beautiful, quite in contrast, I think, to the voice and what's going on. And you're kind of left questioning why. Why is that music like that? Why is the voice like that? You can barely hear it, but it's that voice and that whisper and that kind of theme of it, I think, that kind of carries you through. It's that kind of disjointedness that you can kind of barely hear that I think captures your attention the most, because the gloom of the world is quite frankly soup-like. God knows what assets were used in this. Couldn't really make them out as such. The story is clearly of a survivor. It's a woman who's lost everyone, and after watching her closest people die, she sort of sets out to travel across or through this really gloomy city. And you don't know why she's traveling. but she seems to know where she's going, and she's following these weird sort of ghost-like creatures that all seem to be traveling in the same direction. I won't spoil the ending, but the real highlight is the astonishing detail of these bioluminescent creatures. It's the only real way I can describe them. And they seem to be kind of part animal, part mycelia, the roots and threads of fungus. Um, and I would say watch that video to the very, very end, because there's something quite unusual that happens after a little bit of a space between the end of the film and the end of the actual play. So watch it right to the very end, because there's some kind of reveal in there. And I think overall you kind of get the sense that actually isn't the end of the story, which is intriguing. The thing that I really liked about it as well is the camera angles. But for me, it's the soundscape and the lighting that carries this through, as well as that kind of whispered voice. And I think it's kind of interesting because the contest was actually all about using these assets, but you don't really know what the assets are. So they picked this on the basis of the strength of the story and the originality of the story, not necessarily because of the way the assets were portrayed. And the other thing I would say is, when you have a look at this creator's portfolio, which I really encourage you to do, what you can see is that this creator has got a real trajectory in the creative themes that are used in this film through a breadth of work. So I really encourage you to have a look at that. What do you think?
I downloaded the asset pack with the idea that I was going to enter this contest, and then never got a chance to do it. So there was the asset pack itself. It's got all kinds of stuff. It's buildings, it's vehicles, various props and things that you can use to decorate your set and your environment. And I think this film shows what you can do with a content pack like that. It's absolutely stunning visually. I'm going to talk about the visuals first. Because obviously it's the way it's rendered, it looks beautiful, and so much attention to detail with the way the character looks, that her hair flows very naturally when she turns her head, and she's got very long white hair, and it kind of drifts with it. She's wearing a dress which again flows very naturally, and it looks, there's just so much attention to detail with things like that. And I think when you have a content pack like that as well, you can put your character in an environment that matches the way she looks, and you can play around with it. And there's this kind of fog everywhere that makes everything look really gloomy, which Tracy, you commented on that. And the way it lights up, and I could just talk about this for hours, but and then of course you got the story as well. Because anyway, it tells the story really well, and it draws you in. You kind of want to know what's happening. It doesn't really give you answers, but it makes you want the answers, and it tells you enough that your mind can sort of work things out and play with it. So like, it doesn't spell it out entirely for you, but it gives you enough just to think about, which I really liked. And Tracy, like you said, watch it to the very end, because there's a little, not really credits, but the title, the name of the director comes up, and then there's a blank, and then something else happens, and I almost missed that because I thought that was it, and I was about to turn it off when suddenly the next bit started, which I'm not going to talk about. Just be aware that there's something more to the film than after that point. I can see why this film won the contest, and I think it really shows what you can do with content pack like that. I've got some of the Kit Bash packs as well, and they're stunning. So I'm glad they did this contest. I hope they do more contests, because if this is the kind of film that gets made every time they do that, I think we're in for lots of good things to see in the future.
Yeah. Well, there's no question that this filmmaker is incredibly talented and highly skilled. I can see why the organizers of this contest chose this film, because you can imagine you have all of these basically sort of elements, and to put them together in such a creative way with such a strong mood and a feeling behind it. I can just see how they were going, oh my God, this is going to show off our content pack beautifully, and it's exactly what they want people to do. There's some of the most beautiful things I've seen in a long time on the screen. The sort of evanescent, ethereal quality that you were talking about is very affecting. The editing of each scene was just beautifully done. The sort of progression throughout the carries you through. You didn't even need sound or dialogue to follow the story in a way. It reminded me of a Japanese artist named Amato, Amato, who did a film called Vampire Hunter D and lots of other designs. They have that sort of Baroque, ethereal quality to them, that gives you a sense. It's not a feminine sense, but it's almost a romantic sense. And the contrast between that romantic characters and this sort of gritty and dark environment that they were in were also very affecting and moody. I find it interesting that both of you had no problems with the sound mixing or the choice of music, because it bothered me quite a bit.
Did it? I wondered what you might say about that. I was intrigued by it. I followed it because I couldn't hear the voice very well, but then I thought actually that's a deliberate choice. And the voice overtook what I was watching because I was straining to hear it. But I realized as I was watching it that actually I think that was deliberate, and I think that was intending to pull you through that kind of that you got the sense of the very deep sadness by the fact that you could barely hear the person was barely able to string a sentence together because of the emotion and the deep sadness. And then the music was just very strange, quite in contrast. But then it all kind of came together at the end, which was
It tells me that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to respond to the film that way as well. So I may be a minority opinion on this, but he chose a recording of Clair de Lune by Debussy, and it's a vastly overused science fiction music theme trope, and it was mixed very loudly, so much so that it drowned out the contrast between the high volume music and the whispered low volume voice made it hard to even know what the person was saying. Claire de Lune fits the romantic ethereal quality of the character design, but it doesn't fit the world of the story, in my opinion. I think a better, less, I hate to say it, but a less cliched choice for music would be better. There are lots of Debussy. There are other Debussy pieces also. Eric Satie did some wonderful piano pieces that might have fit, or even something even less, just a soundscape, as opposed to music. The problem with music that runs all the way through something like that is that music is often used as a kind of emotional paste, where the filmmaker uses it to create the emotion and mood. I think it wasn't as necessary because the mood of the style of the characters and the environments were so affecting. It was like over the top for me. Also, the mixing, I don't think you had to have, I agree with you, it was a choice for them to do this. But I always want to hear what the character is saying. I don't necessarily have to understand every word, but I want to know what they're commenting on. It adds to your understanding and information of the scene. So I think some mixing of the two, bringing the music down and bringing the voice up just a bit, there's an old trick that they use in sound editing where a speaking voice has a certain frequency layer. And what they'll do is they'll go into the music and they'll take that frequency layer of the voice in the music and they'll drop it down several decibels, just that area where the voice is. There's a name for it. I can't remember it. But anyway, they do that in a lot of Hollywood films that has music. So the voice still comes through even though the music is loud. They could have used that effect in here, I think. But hearing both of your comments, it made me realize that perhaps the director intended for that to be ambiguous and that it was more of an emotion or a feeling or a mood that they were trying to portray. But for me, it was just a mistake, technically. But boy, oh boy, what a really interesting and cool film this was. I would watch anything this director made in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear you say that because, yeah, I would have, if I could have heard it better, yes, I would have appreciated that. But it didn't stop me enjoying it. The fact that
Yeah.
it was a bare whisper, because it, it's what carried it through for me, really.
It didn't stop me either. It's just that being looking at the craft of it, it made me think that they could have fixed that, and I think it would have been a little bit better film.
But you may well be right, because clearly this artist's very gifted on the visuals. And as I understand it, they do also write their own music.
Well, they should have used their own music instead of Claire de Lune.
Maybe.
Because I recognized the music immediately.
Yeah, I must admit I did. I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah, it's familiar to me as well, but I couldn't remember what exactly
Yeah, no,
what
I
was
couldn't
it,
remember it. But I have to say, congratulations to the winner, and also to
yes,
Kit Bash
congratulations.
Here.
Yes,
a very well-deserved win.
Please do more contests like this. I think, and I think 2 months is probably the right amount of time for it. 2 to 3 months. It's just enough for you to be able to put together something interesting and then do some good post-production work on it. Perhaps they could have done a little bit more in this case, but not for every viewer of it.
Yeah, well, I have to say this contest attracted, according to Kit Bash, 32,000 entries.
Wow, that's great.
Isn't that astonishing? And that included also image selection as well, or selection of images. And what we'll do, we'll put the winner's showreel link on the post as well, so you can have a look at some of the others. But yeah, I think this is a really good choice of winner.
Yep, really, and a good choice for you for our movie. Definitely watch this. It's really an eye popper, and it leaves you with a real interesting feeling. A sense of loss, unexpected loss. Now, I have to be honest with you. I jetted out as soon as the credits started coming, so I missed a little bit at the end. So I'm going to have to go back and watch the end of it to catch you. Don't say it now because I don't want you to spoil the
won't.
bit.
I won't. But you know
what?
I
will go back.
It was quite interesting because I watched a couple of the other videos that this artist had put up, and they used the same technique on the other videos. Just a little bit of a gap and then something at the end. Neat. And I think it's kind of what's the point of that? It's kind of like a bonus for sitting there and watching nothing. It's I don't know. Is that a technique now for getting?
Yeah, it's been used quite a bit, and not only in small films like this, but in major films as well. The post credits scene.
Marvel does that a lot with their stuff to try and tease the next film. But I didn't get that feel for this post-credit scene. For this one, I felt like this shows time has passed from when it fades out to when it fades back in again.
Yes.
Because it's not really a tease of the next film, like Marvel does. This is just shows time has passed. And I haven't seen any of his other films yet, so I can't say how it works in them because I have to go back and watch. But at least for this one, it's just a time passing kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. Good choice.
Thank you.
Listen, everybody, if you have a comment on this film or you agree or disagree with our comments, or maybe you did an entry into the Kit Bash contest and you'd like us to know about it, please contact us at talk@completelymachinima.com. And don't forget our blog. Tracy has been putting lots of really interesting information on the blog at completelymachinima.com, covering AI, machinima, technology, lots of good stuff. So that's it for this week and this month as well. We'll be back next month in March to start out with 4 film picks. So thank you, Tracy and Damien and Phil. We hope you get better soon.
Yeah.
See
ya.
Time.
Bye.